Hi, my name is Jonathan. Welcome to the Haystack. So today, Tim Ballard was doing an interview with Awaken with JP, and Tim Ballard is, I think he's a nephew or something of Elder Ballard, I can't remember, but he runs Underground Railroad, which rescues children who are being trafficked around the world. Now, this organization goes anywhere and everywhere to rescue children. They hunt down children they know have been sold, that they have evidence and everything for, and they go and find them. He's also partnered up with Glen Beck with the Nazarene Foundation, which goes after children who are being harvested for their organs in Israel. Now, President Nelson talks about not harming, causing trauma to children. There's really awful people out there. In fact, I thought I'd share a personal experience that I had, and it was just when I was in training to be a state trooper. I had gone off to Coeur d'Alene for our early hire program, where I'd get some basic training overview stuff, and then go and do ride-alongs and various other trainings for about a month. And I did this up in Coeur d'Alene. And during that time I lived in Washington, and I would go across state borders, and I was away from my family for that time, and because we weren't sure where we were going to move or where I was going to get stationed or what was going to happen, my wife and our 2 children at the time were staying with family. Now, my first day on the road was a really good teaching experience, and unfortunate that got a call to go assist some other troopers who had stopped a vehicle. It had a felon, an armed felon, with drugs and a firearm. Felons aren't allowed to have firearms. And that there was a woman who was badly beaten in the vehicle, and then there's 2 children asleep in the vehicle, or at least unresponsive. So something like that. I don't remember all the details, and there's a lot of things I'm not going to share, but I will share the basics. I was asked to assist, help. It looked like the children had not been taken care of properly. There's a child laying down in the back seat, not in a car seat. He was badly beaten. He was completely unresponsive. The younger child in a car seat, he was simply just sleeping. And my sergeant called me, and he's already in the van, and he looked back at me, and I've never seen somebody of that status, of that, someone who you respect and everything as much as he looked scared. He looked shocked. I've never seen a look like that on somebody's face, from somebody in that position. And the first thing that taught me was what you see as an officer and what you come across, the way you respond to it, the way you react, speaks volumes. Child in the back seat had undergone various amounts of scarring and trauma. Turns out the person that was arrested, the felon, he actually had learned that this child had been harmed, and he was crossing state lines with the intention of killing the person who had done that, who himself was coincidentally arrested just previous to that. And so he couldn't get access to that guy. And so coming on scene, you don't know what the whole story is. But afterwards, the man, he seemed to not be too worried about going back to jail or prison. He thought it was worth it in his eyes to draw attention towards this and get the help that they needed. Properly. He tried to do it on his own, improperly. And it just... He was okay with being arrested for that. But we ended up taking the kids to the hospital. We learned one of these kids, he was likely to die in hours from the trauma he had experienced. The other kid, these kids are my kids at the time, it's their age. And the woman, badly beaten, hysterical. She may, you know, you could tell that the kid was getting hungry, and she suggested that she breastfeed him. And I pulled my sergeant aside. I'm like, do you think that's a good idea? I mean, we have some obvious signs of things that may be in her system. Maybe we can ask the hospital for some formula or some milk or something appropriate for his age. And so we went ahead and did that and gave it to him and fed him and talked with him and cheered him up a little bit. The other boy who was hurt a lot, they had to get him to a children's hospital, I think over in Washington. And so when they went to go take him, she couldn't go with, and she became extremely hysterical over it. And I mean, she's experienced a lot of things. This is one of the other things I had learned is when you're in law enforcement, you're nearly dealing with somebody's worst day of their life nearly every day. You're definitely the worst part of their day, but more often than not, you will be a part of the worst day of somebody's life. And how we respond and treat that means a lot. And that was just day one. When we got the full story, we learned that the child, he ended up living, everything went fine. They got the help they needed. If they had not been intercepted, the child would have died. At the same time, they assigned us to some counseling because anybody who's involved in things of that nature, first responders, they end up putting through some stuff. And it became apparent day one. Again, why? There was one trooper who I absolutely loved. Most humble, funny, cool guy you could ever imagine. And he was the primary person on this the whole time. And he went home and said to his wife, "Hey, I got to tell you some stuff happened at work today." And she could not stop herself from telling him about her difficult day and how so-and-so said this to so-and-so, and they didn't have this at the store, so, you know, all the inconveniences that that drive up a lot of frustration. And he just looked at her and was like, okay, this is how it's going to be. Okay. No, you speak. It's obviously something that's really difficult for you. So, and his wife didn't find out what he had gone through until she saw it on the news when he was being interviewed, and he broke down crying in that interview, talking about what happened with those kids. Because we later found out the kids and the woman we knew that they had been badly beaten and hurt and exposed to drugs and all types of trauma. We also learned that one of them was at least kept in a cage, and had a lot of scars that we didn't see. But he broke down telling this on the news, and his wife saw it and said, "Why didn't you tell me?" And he just said, I tried telling you. Yeah, but you were going through something difficult too. So, and it's funny because I didn't have quite that experience. I was away from my family. I was the only one who was away from their family. I was away from them for a month, and then I was gone for another, I think, 5 months, just going through advanced, training course. But when I had called my wife that night, it was before we ever attended any counseling session or anything. I called her up and seeing how she's doing. I know things are difficult. She's staying with family and handling the kids on her own, and I'm not sure if she was working at the time. She probably was. I can't remember. But she was obviously frustrated. Kids wouldn't quiet down. They keep making messes and fighting and not listening or getting ready for bed. It was just something that should, take a few minutes, and it took a very long time, and she was exhausted, burnt out, has all this other work or things to do all piling up on her. On top of that, I'm gone, and I hear how frustrated she is at these kids, and it's like, man, these freaking kids making me so mad, which is something we all say. At least I say it. I say, the kids, they drive my nerves sometimes, man. And so I understand how difficult that is. But the only thing that was going through my mind was just, please don't be upset with them. Please don't be mad at them. Can you please put that away for now and give them a hug and a kiss for me, please? And that's all I want. I wish I never had a greater desire to be with my children than I did that night. And I remember holding that little boy and just thinking, I wonder if anybody's held this little boy like this before. Now, he's definitely not going to remember me. I was one of many emergency responders, and with or without me, those children would have been saved. The Lord wanted to preserve those kids, and there were people who were listening and were able to do that, and I simply got to be able to participate and witness it. And it taught me a lot of things very fast. But I wanted to share that personal experience because I haven't shared it with too many people. And yeah, it's been long enough that I think I can talk about it. There's nothing with court that's still going on with it. It's all done with. But that was just a small taste of, you know, things that law enforcement, first responders go through. But more than what they go through is what children are actually going through, who are they're not prepared to be thrown through such trauma. And hearing somebody like Tim Ballard, who has the means and ability to go out and do these things and save and rescue these kids, oh man, if I would qualify, I'd pitch him a application, say, hey, take me, you know, use me however you want, you know. But the people who go out on these things with him, these guys are like ex-Navy SEALs and Special Forces. These guys are the best of the best. These guys are like a foot taller than me. They're built like rocks. These guys, they're minds of engineers and just amazing tacticians. So I get that's great. But what they are doing is they are taking whatever amount of donations are made available so that they have the means of going out and doing these things. And so I'm very grateful for JP participating and interviewing him, and for the movie he's doing, and John Caviezel for being willing to play Tim in a documentary or movie coming out on 4th of July, and for Glen Beck's work with them. In fact, Glen Beck will be doing a Sheriff's Association thing here pretty soon up in Idaho Falls. So if you're in Idaho, I encourage you to look that up and participate in that. The thing is we keep saying things on Earth have to get so bad, or people are facing Armageddon on a daily basis. And there's a lot of us who are fortunate enough to be in a little bit of Zion. We are literally living like kings, better than kings have throughout all generations of time and history. And yet we find time to complain about the most first world problems there ever could be. We find more time to criticize and say what's wrong rather than to thank the Lord. And ask, hey, I know there's people who are suffering right now. How can I be a help, service to them? What will you have me do to lighten someone else's burden today? And that's something I'm at a standstill with right now. I'm constantly thinking, what can I do? What can I do where I'm at? And it's a difficult thing to figure out and understand and receive revelation on. But we're here to minister. We've been reserved for these last days. We know that a judgment is coming soon. And I'll tell you what, the stuff being perpetuated in our large population areas, especially with this alphabet soup, multicolored groups, groups confused about identity. Yes, I get love them. Yeah, that's inherent. That's inherent. We love our enemies. We love the people we love. We love our family. We love our neighbors. We also love our enemies. We pray for our enemies. We pray for those who persecute us. Yeah, that's inherent. You don't need to tell me to love somebody. I've learned that I can love some of the most people who I thought were despicable, or that you would think this is a despicable behavior, and then meet the person and just like, gosh, I want to help you. And I had the opportunity as a parole agent. I found myself caring about people and wanting them to be successful and having measurable success. And that's how I knew that even our Savior loved Judas in that moment, even at betrayal. He loved even Judas. And there's people committing all forms of heinous crimes. And everything I was trained about when I was trained to supervise sex offenders, I got this most amazing training from a guy with Interpol. Excellent in every possible way. And then I got training which was contradictory by an East Coast academic. My goodness. I was livid because I was given contradictory training from this person. An American. Somebody you think would know better. And I'm like, here, I'm drawing the line right here. This stuff, we, even here in conservative Utah and Idaho, have these trans kid things going on, parades or whatever, where they're hosting it at, like here in Pocatello, they're hosting one at a strip club for kids. Everything that they're doing, I was taught, all this deviant sexual behavior, every single bit of that stuff, I was trained and taught and have always inherently known is wrong. What it does is it seeds, like every sex offender I know had these seeds put in them by being abused themselves or exposed to things themselves. All this woke, multicolored alphabet soup stuff, it's an abomination. It's an abomination of desolation. These are our bodies are the temples which the Lord has given us. And these people are desecrating their own temples. And that's not enough. They want to encourage everyone to desecrate their temple and to do so at younger and younger age. Nothing. It makes me very angry. And it's beyond unlawful. So, yeah, I've found that I can forgive some of the most reprehensible people. I can forgive people who have personally done me harm, physical, emotional, all forms of harm. I can forgive them. I know it's difficult. I know how to forgive. I know how to love. It does not mean I have to tolerate such degradation, whatever that word is. I do not have to tolerate such evil, because these are satanic seeds. They're going into our societies under the guise of acceptance. And don't fall for it. I'm not saying if somebody's part of that community that you don't like them. No, I've gotten along just fine with these people, but certainly have never supported, won't support their actions and what they're doing to children. We don't have to accept it. We can openly say, this is an abomination. Get it out of here. Cast it out. Isn't that what we're taught? Cast it out. Because what the world is teaching is you're a hater unless you accept everything, no matter what it is. We have the measurable evidence that all these actions being politically pushed is harmful. Yet, I feel like the way we have our speech taken away is you simply make everything a divide, make everything a political issue. I remember once being pulled into my boss's office, and him, he's a region director, being pulled into his office and being lectured by him about making things political. I said, well, what did I do? He said, anytime you bring up how much you don't like the masks or what you think is wrong with the masks, we don't have room for politics. I said, that's not a political thing. That's a common sense thing. Like, you want me to wear a mask at all times, but I'm also going into, well, I'm not going to use the example that he used, but said it's not a political thing. He's like, well, it's politically divided on the news. I said, I don't care. I don't care what the political affiliation is. I'm just saying this. But what these people do to control you is they divide everything and then make it a political issue. And then they make one a socially or politically accepted norm, and they put everything else on thou shalt not speak these things. All of that censorship, all of this, we have a freedom of religion, not to separate, not to keep religion out, but so the government itself doesn't become a state-sponsored religion to rule and reign over people and ideologies. And that's what's happening with wokeism. Political correctness, everything. All of that, it's violation of our Constitution. This rainbow-colored stuff going on, none of it benefits society or humanity in any shape or form. Put that on a bumper sticker, I don't care. Well, no, don't drive to division, but that's something that I will stand by always, is the alphabet soup and their social engineering and their actions into our society. None of it has any benefit to humanity in any shape or form. None of it. It doesn't perpetuate life. It doesn't perpetuate success. It doesn't perpetuate unity. It doesn't perpetuate a single thing. It's not something that could even last. And all that disappears when times get hard. So, take it for what it is. It's a slippery slope, and it's all under the guise of acceptance. Because right now, all over the world, children are being trafficked. They're going through the worst things you can imagine. But for us, oh no. Second coming's a long way off. No. These children are facing some of the worst things at a higher rate than ever before. And you think that the Lord will allow it to continue? Why was it that he allowed the flood? It cannot continue. We would lose our saints. How long would it be before the saints become so disgusted with the immorality that it gets to a point where it's very difficult to forgive? Yet we're commanded to do so. Now the Lord sent us here. We need to find out what he has for us to do. There's people suffering the worst atrocities that we could ever imagine. Things worse than what you and I have faced. We face a lot of inconveniences. Yeah, we'll cry about it. We'll complain on Facebook about it. But when it comes down to it, we are living far better than any other generation on earth. And in that comfort and complacency, we're neglecting the people who are in the highest of need. We've been asked to raise our children right, to raise them up into righteousness, to minister to others, to share the gospel, gather Israel. Because this field needs to be scorched, and we need our harvest set aside. And all these things are going to be exposed. They're getting exposed now. Let's see how many people we can try and help so they don't have to endure those type of traumas. They don't have to. I'll get off my soapbox. I just wanted to share that because I feel very strongly about it. I'm personally trying to figure out ways to help, and I think most of that starts with how to be a better parent. And think of all the problems I have. They're nothing compared to others. My goodness, how did I get that lottery? I faced some challenges, but there's things that I'd do anything to save or take away the type of troubles that some people have. And we can share the gospel, change people's hearts. That's one way. The other way is, in the meantime, there's people in Tim Ballard's situation or case where they have means and ability and expertise and knowledge of how to save these children's lives and provide a temporal preservation for them. Wouldn't you want that if you're in their place? I think I would. If any of my children were there, I'd give anything. I'd drop everything I had and search after them. Anyways, I'm going camping with the family. Hope you guys have fun. Hope your guys' gardens are doing well. Now, we got a lot of stuff that's not going well. My family and I are learning Hebrew. We use TalkBox, or TalkMom box, something like that. It's basically mothers who learn various languages or have from various language backgrounds, and they help in sharing these things. And it's done by moms, teaches within the house, so it gives you words and phrases, things that are common to use in the home. So it's a way to try and immerse yourself and your family into that type of environment when you don't live in that type of environment. And we thought of all the different languages. We thought, well, Spanish might be good. We both have backgrounds with Spanish, German maybe, and then we just thought, the hardest ones we don't want to do, those are Chinese, Russian, and Hebrew. So I'm like, why not make those are the hardest? Why not start it early with us and the kids? And, if it works, it works. If not, we'll try harder. And the reason we looked at those ones is those are the areas or languages I can think of or that were available that are language groups that need the gospel. And so hopefully by the time I'm a senior missionary, I could be able to help people in a broader way than I currently do now. Hopefully that'll give my children the opportunity to have a better understanding of culture, better understanding of scriptures, and give them something a little bit different than what everybody else is doing. And maybe they get to be missionaries out there someday. Because even after the Lord returns, I imagine there's a lot of practicality that still exists, and people will still be called on missions and go various places. And I'm not sure what will happen. I imagine that we'll all still speak separate languages, but we'll still need that opportunity to teach one another. And so I think it's good. Anyways, check it out for yourself. Let me know what your thoughts are. Look up that JP Awakening interview with Tim Ballard, and if you got something to put aside, do that. If I could donate my time and attention, or if there was an employment opportunity, I don't imagine if I would qualify for the type of people he currently has, but certainly would be willing. But think of the things that we could do here, now, in our own places, our own areas, in our own gathering of Zion. Sorry this went long. I meant this to be like a 10-minute thing. Have a good day.